Abusua ye mama kwa baso nko so de Ghana politics avenue so abusua mama ye mbo ran yisem se na no first time a wo hwe dwumadi ya no wa subscribe no wa share no wa hit o notification bell no so amaye se ensem ba political headline so a ne de bi aba abadomu abusua eye insutobra a esi wakra no da mande isuto fiti anopa kopna nyimra akofa eye ehaw ne amane abre eye Ghana fo bi ni mu a omoti akra iso ayirafa omonyuma ne omoduane ne omonyuma bebre bebi ombedampo ayere ato eye how ene amane ade ama ono ebusua eye ye interior minister e di asemi betuja eye Muntaka Mohammed honorable Muntaka Mohammed e di so ensemi di betuja e ka se omo fia omonyamba adwuma no enka omonje adwuma no na so ometima adwuma no from efie to adwuma mu a anka omonye adwuma from efie to adwuma mu senior enkofa ehaw no dodo na na esi na aka enkofa foforo bi ensam beka ho nti se aka ombetumi atena fie ama omo a ka omo ntena fie na omo a omo ho akire omo yenzi kan solve omo problem ema omo ebusua ana ye minority leader de ebe kasa efa asema Muntaka Mohammed anase interior minister ebe ka no ebe ka se ebusua ensem ne ya project that to screen in che ama omo I say at the time you interior minister were telling people to stay home. Their home were already flooded. Where were you expecting them to go? A year minority leader, catch interior minister say, Obi o catch almost a mountain fino, fie no, the insua for dada, interior fan a west petty so monko. Ebusua, ebi na entisa, interior minister ka say, omo fie insu emfa wono, anko mountain fie, na omo insua fa wono, nanka omo ye de yenhwe omo ansana da behwe omo a isuo emfa omo ebusu ono na majority leader Muhammad Ayariga so abeto bi amane minority leader AfenyoMarkin Ayariga so abeka bi a kire AfenyoMarkin say ebusu ono na esa so eda screen in chen ho dem no o say AfenyoMarkin, you speak as this is the first time Accra is experiencing flooding. Stop the drama. Ana majority leader enso atu bi ade ama AfenyoMarkin say adai ase ne first time ase insuyiri aba Ghana enye ne first time insuyiri de afi bi eba ba se enne de no afi de no e wo anim kakra say afi bia enu ti na akofa problem about him enye say okasa sa ebusua nsem no ene nsem bi a enso a ye ekeka ho a ye de bremo ebusua momia kwenko tie nsem bi so e kan we ba ye de daka na beto aso
5 years for even assembly members, right? And then 5 years for MMDCEs, right? That's a big area of discussion, and we will make more time when the time is in. I don't know what you think. I've heard people who will disagree with the 5 years, right? The 4 years, but the 4 years, the president said the time frame it's limited. You have 1 year to do, by the time you enter into office and all those things, putting things in order, you have 3 years to go. You end up spending 2 years, right? But there are other school of thought who suggest that the 4 years, if you have a laid down blueprint to hit the ground running from day one, because obviously you know what you want. You know where you want to take the country to. During your campaigning season and all those things, you've set your targets. You have the manifesto. So the moment you are put in office, the clock start ticking, right? So that's the mindset why others will also drum against moving the tenure of office of the presidency from 4 years to 5 years. They think 4 years is enough period, to deal with your manifesto promises, because obviously, as I said, you would have known what you intend to do even before you move into office the first day. So they talk about 4 years not being adequate. Well, we'll see how it goes. I believe all this will go through the referendum stage where Ghanaians will get to decide, will vote to decide yes or no, whether you want 4 years or 5 years. When that period comes, we will do the more education on that. All right, so that was around town, ending up the president's tour of the central region. We will move to the House of Legislature, Parliament. In Parliament in focus. Last week, a lot of happenings were in Parliament. The ministry responsible for works, housing and water resources were in the House to answer certain questions that's got to do with challenges within the setup. And we want to bring you some of the indications that happen. First of all, the minister was questioned about the rental challenges that we face here as a country. Is it time to review our rent laws? Is it time to ensure protection for would-be rent seekers? All these issues were tabled to when the sector minister appeared before Parliament House last week. Parliament in Focus is up next.
Of righteousness, where none shall wrong his neighbor, a country of plenty, where evil and poverty shall be done away with, a country of...
The ministry has initiated a comprehensive review of the existing rent laws. Mr. Speaker, the review seeks to repeal the Rent Act 1963 as amended, together with the Rent Control Law 1986, and replace them with a modern Consolidated Rent Act. The new legal framework is designed to address the persistent constraints within the current regime, harmonize all related laws governing rental housing, and introduce appropriate incentives to stimulate private sector investment in the rental housing market. Importantly, Mr. Speaker, the proposed legislation will uphold and strengthen protections for low-income and vulnerable tenants. It is structured to guard against abuse, arbitrary rent increases, and unfair rental practices, while at the same time ensuring a balanced framework that recognizes the legitimate interest of property owners. Mr. Speaker, the drafting of the new legislative framework is currently at an advanced stage to be submitted soon to Cabinet for approval and subsequently to Parliament. Plan to bring it during this second session after a Cabinet approves it. Thank you.
So that was Kenneth Gilbert G, the sector minister responsible for work, housing, and water resources, speaking to those issues about rent. Rent. And for me, I've always had the issue that it is not about, and if you look around town, it's not as if that there are no buildings or there are no houses available for renting, right? When you go around town, you see a lot of estate, a lot of buildings. The question is the affordability and the exploitation of would-be, tenants. I hope you get what I'm saying. So normally they will talk about the affordable housing scheme, and every day I've been asking, how affordable are those affordable housing projects? So the question is not got to do with the non-availability of rooms. I believe there are rooms if you want, but the exploiting or the exploitative nature of landlords, where you are exploited, to dole out, let's say, sometimes these days they don't even take the 2 years, right? Some are taking 3 years, some are taking 4 years. Majority of landlords will want to exploit, would-be tenants. So that's the discussion. It's about protecting the vulnerable, the low-income earners who would want to have some rooms to lay their heads. But the issue here is the affordability. When you are asking for 3 years, 4 years, 2 years rent advance, right? And sometimes the rooms are going for 200 Ghana cedis a month. That's the least I believe you can get. 150, 200, 300. So calculate that by 2 year term. So it's a lot of money, and that's been the challenge. I believe that there are enough rooms available, right? because even those real estate that are coming up, how many people can afford? So we are building more structures, but we are not meeting the target group, those who are now looking for those estates to live in, way below the middle income earner, right? So obviously there will be concerns that will be raised because of affordability issues. Okay, so from what we are getting, it says there's a comprehensive review of the current rent law. What we have now is outdated, so the new one will come in, and it's all geared towards protecting the vulnerable against the exploitative nature of some of these, landlords out there. Well, it's good news. Let's see how that review pans out. Let's just stay in the house of the legislature. It's been raining, and I'm sure you have your concerns. I have some footages I'll share with you at the end of the discussion, and you will marvel. I've seen real estates submerged, right? An entire estate, because the real estate developer decided, he thought he could cheat God. A whole water harvesting area was filled up. They filled it with sand and concrete and decided to build. Now it's raining, the entire place is submerged underwater. Sometimes we need to blame ourselves also for some of these things. Well, the issue about the dredging of the Odo drain, and let me remind viewers, the Odo, it's a river. The Odo is not just a gutter. The Odo is not a gutter. It is a huge river coming in from the Equiapim range, right, down the Ibri mountain. Those who know the geography very well. So it comes from the Equiapim range, right, and finds its way down the mountain, passes through Abokobi, Pantine, all those areas, right down through parts of, I think, East, inside through the channel. So what we did as a country to be able to deal with the flooding issue was to build a channel, okay, to house the water that's coming in from the mountain and all those flash floods that will be happening in Accra. So now we see it as the Odo drain, but the Odo itself, naturally, it's a river. What we've done is to channel it through into the sea. So you see the Odo right through to from parts of Accra, the Odo drain, through parts of La Paz and all those areas, and then ends up in the oceans. So what we currently see is the Odo drain. Well, so there are issues about the dredging of the Odo. We've been talking about that Gary project, right? Building of storm drains. Well, the minister was asked questions about that, especially now that the floods have set in. Let's hear his response on that.
And comprises the construction of a 1.5 kilometer box culvert structure from the Nima Paloma to the Odo River for a duration of 18 months. However, due to poor performance, the contract for this work has been terminated. At the point of termination, there were still some ongoing works at critical stages which required immediate completion. The ministry therefore sought approval from the World Bank to immediately complete these critical works whilst repackaging of the project continued. These critical works include the following: demolish outfall wall of Odo channel to prevent sediment buildup and flooding, complete construction of drain downstream to connect the Odo channel, construct drainage section upstream that was stripped and demolished. Mr. Speaker, to enable us re-tender and repackage works, we require commitment authorization from the Ministry of Finance to continue the process. In the coming days, we will submit to the Ministry of Finance the document for approval to continue the process. Silting and dredging contract for the Odo River is being implemented as part of the Gary project. The project commenced in February 2024 and is scheduled to be completed by December 2027, with resources allocated under the Gary project. Thank you.
Well, the question for those of you who have been in, or been around for a while, you ask this question. What at all is this Garib project? What is this animal we always talk about as the Garib project? Because since I started reporting on flooding issues in Accra, we've always talked about this project. And you remember I think the June 3 disaster, right? 15 years ago, when it came down and a lot of Ghanaians, over 150 Ghanaians lost their lives. We talked about all this. I joined some ministers of state, right, to go around the entire Accra, Kandishi, and Kwashima, and all Dansoman, dredging, and the talk about was this Garib, right? And every year on, everybody, any new government comes in, will talk about Garib. Sometimes the source of funding will change. Sometimes the funding is there. We need to, revise the model and all those things. And that's why I'm asking this question. What is this animal called the Garib project? Because it never comes to an end. It never comes to an end. As it's raining now, go to Dansoman Junction, right? First light, the traffic lights, all the way through Kokompe Junction. You take a drive there and see if you'll be able to drive through there. That project passes through there from Kandishi and all those areas. They are expected to build heavy storm drains that's passing through there to collect receding flood waters. But year in, year out, we've been talking about this animal project every time. Well, for those who also know, behind Paloma Hotel, right inside Ring Road Central, inside there's this huge drain. And also, if you remember, during the June 3 disaster that happened 15 years ago, you realize that a lot of, that entire stretch was collapsed, right? Because a lot of vehicles were blocked inside the drain following the heavy rains. So it damaged most of the slabs, or almost all the cement slabs of the drain were all washed away. We are being told that because of the bad nature of works being carried on by the contractor, they've taken away the contract. Well, whilst we do all this and battle with contracts and signing of new contracts, lives are being lost, right? Properties worth thousands of Ghana cedis are getting damaged. And yet, I keep saying, we'll be here. Let's mark it so we'll be here next year, and we'll talk about this Garib project. Right? Efforts being made to bring this Garib project to an end. When at all is this project going to be completed? Anyway, we'll reach out and see whether we'll get some responses. Well, so let's turn our attention to water challenges. There are issues of water crisis in Dambai. You also remember Tamale Yendi. We've talked about the Tamale Yendi water expansion project. Well, the question is, what's happening to all these water expansion where people will have to trek sometimes days, right, hours, in search of basic necessity of life, water. So let's take our attention to the responses that was given by the Minister Kenneth Gilbert Ejay when asked about the Dambai water works expansion. Take a listen in.
The water supply in the Karachi East constituency is currently being provided by the Community Water and Sanitation Agency. However, in view of the rapid population growth and increasing urbanization, particularly in Dambai, Ghana Water Limited has initiated engagements with potential investors to facilitate the development of a Dambai water supply project as part of a strategic expansion agenda. The feasibility study for this project is nearing completion. Mr. Speaker, the finalized feasibility study will be submitted to the Ministry of Finance in accordance with the Regulation 9A of the Public Financial Management Regulations for approval and subsequent issuance of the seal of quality. This certification will enable the project to qualify for funding under the Ministry of Finance portfolio of priority projects.
Those are the indications. Government says they're looking for potential investors, right, to have that Dambai Waterworks expansion project come to light. So for those of you in the Kratchi East municipality and beyond, especially in Dambai, the news is that government says that they are now looking for potential investors to come and deal with the water crisis that you find yourself in. So keep your fingers crossed out. A bit of information for all the Dambai residents and all those in the Kratchi East, municipality. Let's still stay with issues about water. And this time around, we'll take you to the Tamale and Yendi enclave. For several years, residents in Tamale and its surrounding communities, stretching up to Yendi, will not have access to reliable source of potable water. The indications are that they are now looking for alternative funding, so to speak, to bring that particular project into being. Let's take a listen in.
When I say my course or political headline also, efa in summer a year interior minister cast or be antinefie, wow, bedman, wow, ufie in shoe and yirin found, tenefie, any no monsha or mine shoe a farm on we, and Sunday I bet shot on mine soon farm. AfenyoMarkin Ebeka say on mine shoe and a farm. Also, on tenefie, and fan on Cotina, and interior minister so abe blast and I say, and yen the first time a in shoe a yiri. Afa Ghana ni ebusuan so subscribe and not subscribe no one share no one hit notification bell no so amai ensem de bebre ebi nam kwa mu eban eba ye de aka ba be dum edam ase